You're listening to Book, Line, and Sinker, a podcast from the Marble Falls Public Library staff. I'm your host, Iona, and today I have director Amanda Rose with me as we interview stylist, illustrator, and author of the 50 Ways to Wear series, Lauren Friedman. So first, how did you come up with the idea for 50 Ways to Wear? And did you always mean it to be a series, or did it kind of grow out of your first book, 50 Ways to Wear a Scarf?
That's a good question, because it actually is one of those crazy, be careful what you wish for stories. I started my Closet and Sketches and Illustrated Style blog in 2010. And I did it at the time just because, I didn't want to come home after looking at a computer screen all day and then look at another screen and watch TV. And I think I was starved for some creative expression. So I started coming home from work and making an outfit and giving it a story and a name. And I really like getting dressed around a story. And within a year of creating this blog, it opened up all of these opportunities for me. And I started illustrating monthly for Lucky Magazine, which is now defunct, and I got a lot of just new illustration commissions. I was going to New York Fashion Week. It was all I have no idea what I'm doing, but yes, I will go. Great. Yeah. And around that time, a friend told me to, as this new career path began, to write down my 1 and my 5 and my 10-year goals. And under my 1-year goal, I wrote that I wanted to write a book for Chronicle Books, because I knew that they were publishing people who had started on the internet, and I loved their style. I loved the color. And then about a year and a half later, it was actually Hurricane Sandy. I was tucked in on a friend's couch. I remember I was eating chicken and watching a nature documentary. And I got an email from an editor at Chronicle Books who had seen a post I had done on my Closet and Sketches about how to wear a scarf. And she asked me if I wanted to write and illustrate 50 Ways to Wear a Scarf, which I was
so cool.
So shocked. I know. It was really very much one of those I have no idea how to write a book, but I can't say no to this opportunity. So I just sort of dove in head first, and it was such an amazing experience, and I felt so lucky to have that opportunity with Chronicle. I really wanted to take advantage of that and write and illustrate some more. So there was never an idea that was going to be a series, but then once I finished the second one, I always thought, okay, at least I have to do 3 of these so that it feels like some sort of completeness. So accessories, whether or not that's the last 50 ways or a pause or I'll write another one, it felt like accessories was a really good way to bring that fashion together of all of those 50 Ways books.
I know some authors, they treat their books as their babies, but do you have a favorite one that was just you loved a little bit more than the other?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that it's like a baby, because the process of working on a book is, I haven't had a child yet, but I imagine it's sort of like being pregnant, and it's this really special experience with just you and your baby, and then all of a sudden you give birth, and it's it's out into the world, and you, in many ways, it's beyond your control now. And that really was sort of what it was like writing a book. There's this intimate moment where it's just me and my ideas, and then I submit it to the publisher. I basically forget about it for 8 months until it comes out, and then it comes out and it's oh, I forgot I did that. I guess I gotta stand by that work that I did last year. But I would have to say that the accessories book might be my favorite, only because I used all of my own clothes and accessories in it, and so it was really personal.
Oh yeah.
And it just felt like accessories gave me an opportunity to throw all of those styling ideas that I've had and accumulated over the years into one book, in a way that scarves and denim I think are a little bit more limiting, which is also its own fun, unique challenge. They're not really 50 ways. There's probably almost more 200 or 250 ideas in each book, because there's how to wear a denim skirt, but then within the how to wear a denim skirt, there are 4 ideas. So it's hard to say which one is my favorite, but the accessories book, I think I feel most proud by it. I think you might hear from a lot of authors that they look at their books and think about what they would do differently, or any artist or any, as I call myself, recovering type A person would probably look at something and think about how they would have already done it differently from the process of learning at the beginning till the end. But accessories, I look at that one and I think, like, I wouldn't change it.
Yeah. Everyone wears accessories, like,
right.
And not everyone wears scarves. I feel like my favorite, just as a Texan, is the denim one.
Right,
because
right.
we wear denim
You
a lot.
wear denim. I know. I was very excited to be amongst my denim people too. I think that the denim book, I think, is a little bit more of a specific audience. So to be in Texas amongst the denim wearing, like the pros, I almost feel like I need to be taught by you guys.
No, there's just so many good tips in that. When we were talking about the cuffing, I remember when she taught me about how to cuff the denim shirt and stuff, and I remember Jenna Lyons always had those types of
There are actually a lot of Jenna Lyons images in the, like, I do a lot of research before I start the books, and so I accumulated thousands of pictures that I would organize, like, specifically for the denim book. Like, I would have a huge folder just of denim shirts and all the images relating to denim shirts. And her style, there's something about it that's so effortless, but, like, extremely stylish. And she always is the one going for the denim shirt. And actually, funnily enough, the image for the how to wear denim to a dressy event, where it's the illustration, they're wearing a denim shirt and then that green, big, like, gorgeous ball gown skirt, that was inspired by Jenna Lyons.
Oh, that's
so your
awesome.
Instincts right there are pretty correct.
I was like, one of my follow-up questions is, do you have designers that kind of inspired you? What are a few of your favorites? Because mine, I feel like why I love your book so much is you're a lot like Jenna Lyons, especially when she was at J. Crew.
Right.
And that was like my whole college early career wardrobe. So just kind of wanted to know who your inspirations were.
That's a great question. And it has changed actually since starting the scarf book now into the accessories book. Now my big inspirations, Tracee Ellis Ross, I think her enthusiasm and her love for fashion is infectious. And I think she really seems like she's wearing her truth. You know what I mean? Like, when someone is wearing a look that you just really get a sense of something about their soul from the outside, which I think is just one of the most amazing things about clothes, is that it can communicate something really personal and special inside. So she's a big inspiration. And then for the denim book, I looked back a lot to a lot of old school denim images. So there's some really great pictures of Marilyn Monroe from this not great movie that she was in that I can't think of the name of. The Misfits. It's not a good movie, but I did watch it. But the denim that they're wearing in that period, or like Marlon Brando or James Dean, those looks they still hold up today, which I think is one of the amazing things about denim, is that it's sort of an evergreen thing that, along those lines, I have a hard time getting rid of any of my jeans, because I always know that, I know my boot cuts are going to be in style again in 5 years, so I'll just, tuck these away and wait for them to come back. So, in terms of inspirations, Tracee Ellis Ross is a big one. And today, I look a lot at thrifting, so I'm very excited to go after this to the library thrift store. I've been talking about it for a while. But I think that you can find a lot of fashion in places like Old Navy or Target. There's the democracy of fashion, I think, especially with social media and Instagram. It's a lot easier to make it feel like it's accessible to you. And when it comes to designers, at this point, I feel like designers are not the tastemakers. It's the people wearing the clothes that are the tastemakers. And Tracee Ellis Ross is right up there, really right up there.
Yeah, so I was wondering, do you like to design? You kind of answered it. Or are you more interested in the styling? Like creating the look rather than creating like the clothes?
That's a good question, because especially, well, in the denim book, there are some things in there that I just sort of dreamt up out of my head. And I think that that someone who is a designer, they're an artist, you know, like I can't imagine being someone who designs 4 collections a year and they all have to look totally different. I think I'm a little bit more interested in the styling only because it's something that is about everyone being able to access this skill. One of my jobs that I do, in addition to being an author and illustrator, is I am a stylist and a closet consultant. So I help people go through their clothes and organize and then make outfits for them. And that is one of the most satisfying things I can ever imagine doing, because it's this, in the same way that, you know, you find your creativity in lots of different ways, whether you like to draw or write poetry or even just, you know, taking walks. I think it can be a creative experience. The styling of putting together things that you own and may have owned for a really long time and suddenly having a completely different outfit just from rolling the cuffs differently or trying a new pair of pants with the top that you normally wear with these other pants. I think that is this magical experience. So that, I think, is really what gets my goat going, is the styling element of it, less of the design portion, because there's a lot of great designers out there. Like, I don't know if I would bring much to that already robust table, if you know what I mean.
Did you always want to be like a stylist or an author, an illustrator, or did it develop as you got older?
Well, my general answer to that question is always that everyone who knew me as a little kid is not surprised by it, because I was always changing outfits 3 times a day and making magazines and just, you know, poring over Vogue magazine when I was really young. But I think maybe for whatever reason, I went to college. I majored in political science. I got a job after college at the PBS NewsHour, and then I was a financial educator. And I think maybe for whatever reason, I felt like the passion that I had for getting dressed in fashion and style didn't feel like it was something that I could make a living out of. You know, I think it's really hard to combine those passions with a sustainable career. So part of the reason I think it has been something that's been successful for me is because I started the blog and the books purely for the sake of having fun and loving just diving into my closet and challenging myself with a new look. Like, oh, well, today I'm going to dress like an anthropologist who just got back from a trip from Paris, you know, just sort of challenging myself with that and making it something that's just an everyday lived creative experience, not just something that I have to do. So yes, is the answer to your question. Ultimately, yes. Even if I myself didn't know it a lot of the time, you know, it's funny how the universe just sort of always finds a way to give you what you want, even if you don't necessarily know what you're asking for. Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about the illustrations.
Mm-hmm.
So you've always liked fashion or style, but when did you start illustrating and how did you develop this style?
Well, a big part of that is the fact that my mom is an architect. And she still does all of her work by hand. So she taught me how to draw in perspective at a really young age. And I think that was a huge part of it, is just being taught by someone who knew sort of the technical skills of that. And I took a lot of art classes in middle school and high school, but I actually think that if I had majored in art in college, I don't think I would be doing what I'm doing right now. You know, it was really just about like, oh, let's go home and draw something else and be excited about it. And I think repetition is one of the greatest teachers. So even with my first book with scarves, to me, I can see the difference between my hands, the way that I drew hands from the beginning to the end. I worked on that book chronologically, so like look 50 to me is really obvious that I learned a lot in that time. So when I got to 50 Ways to Wear Denim, I actually made sure to do it out of order so that I would know that it didn't all to me look like, oh gosh, like she really figured out how to draw thumbs by look 45, you know. So it's an ongoing process, and I think sometimes I'm a little bit limited. For me personally, it's hard for me to step away from this desire to make things look really photorealistic. Like it's really important to me. I spent a lot of time when I started working on the books going to life drawing classes and wanting it to be as realistic as possible. And I actually am very jealous of artists who can sort of just draw it how they see it in their head and be okay with that. I'm sort of trying to overcome my instinct to make everything, you know, the perfect proportion. And this, you know, the length of your arm has to be, you know, half of the length of the, like there's a lot of rules around that, which I'm trying to unlearn myself. But you know, it's like playing paper dolls, you know, and that's like, I think a really big inspiration for me was paper dolls and just putting things on top of each other and imagining what the look would be when they go to the party, etc., etc., etc. So I think it's important for me to make clear that I taught myself how to draw professionally myself, and I think you can teach yourself to do a lot of things if you just sit down and do them every day, you know. So there's no limitations to what is inspiring to you and how you want to make that work for yourself. I think that's a good, you know, just like, it's okay, you know, you can just keep drawing them, and every day you never know what they might turn out to look like by practice.
I think, well, I know that your illustrations are why your books are special. If you took your same style tips and the same words and it was just snapshots, it wouldn't have that extra artistic quality.
Yeah, that's actually some feedback that people give me about the books, why they appreciate them from a styling perspective, is that, especially because there isn't a face, it's like you can see yourself in the look a lot more easily than if it was a picture of someone wearing that. And that's really important for me, is for people to feel no hesitation about the access that they can have to that look, not being a certain size or a certain age. I think that, to your point, having illustrations makes it feel more accessible for people.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's like, and you can, these are pieces a lot of times we already own, and it's just like, I've never seen it that way. And it makes you like more confident, like in how to wear your own clothes and stuff.
Yeah, it was really important to me that it wasn't about like, you need to buy these things and every person has to have these 10 items in their closet. It's like, no, I don't want any rules. I want someone to say, oh, I have those pieces. I never thought to wear them together that way. That's cool, you know, instead of feeling limited, like you have to buy things, because we live in a world where we should probably all be buying less and finding ways to use the things that we already own, or, you know, going to the thrift store or borrowing from a friend. And so it's really important to me that these books convey that message about recommitting to the things that you already have and finding new ways to love them.
I like that. So do you have like a favorite wardrobe piece?
Oh gosh, what a good question. Well, I think it speaks a lot to how special fashion is, which is that my answer now would be different from last year.
Oh yeah.
You know? Like, of course there are some evergreen things in my closets that I'll always treasure, most of which are probably items that were passed down from my mom and my grandma that have, you know, special significance. But right now, actually, the shirt that I'm wearing, it's a leopard print shirt for those who can't see me. It's like a t-shirt, but a leopard print. It's like really been, it goes with everything, fits with all my pants, all my skirts. It looks great under every jacket. Leopard print is such a neutral, and it looks so good with denim too, whether you're doing a denim on denim look or just a jean jacket. So this was a really exciting find. And I've been, some other point too that I would like to make at some point about this, which I'll make now, is about what it's like to have a changing body. And it was sort of disappointing to me when I moved back to Ann Arbor from living in Washington, D.C. I moved in with my now fiance, and you always hear about people gaining weight when they move in with their significant other, and I thought that was all a hack until I realized, like, yep, this is definitely happening. And I went through this phase of feeling really limited by my clothes because I would pull out a pair of pants and think, like, ugh, I can't fit into this. Like, this is a waste of space. This is a waste of money. Am I somehow less because, like, I can't fit into the things that I, like, committed to having in my closet? And I think it's important to recognize that you are a changing body and change is constant. Mm-hmm. So it was like, you know what? I just have to get some pants that fit so that when I get up in the morning, like, I can feel okay, I can feel comfortable, and then it makes the other things that I can still wear, you know, work with that. And I think being gentle on yourself about that. Like, it's hard to buy a lot of things and then have none of them work. That's, you know, that sunk cost of, like, oh my gosh. Like, I used to be super into lingerie, and now it's like, I don't want to wear any of this. And then, like, what do I do with it? Yeah. You know, like, all of that, all of those things. So I think it's just a lesson in being gentle on yourself and also recognizing that things change, you can change, and that's a part of life. And to, you know, just go with the flow of that and find a cheap pair of pants from the Gap or something and feel really great about yourself in that way.
Well, I like that you made that point, because one of the things that I've learned from your books, since the tips and things are so approachable, was that it was more about confidence and how to feel good with who you are today.
Right.
And I love being able to get dressed and feel put together.
Right.
And then move on and live life that day.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about, you know, adjusting here or that. Nope, I'm done. And honestly, I've learned a lot of that from your books, and that message came to me from your books. So
that's great.
That's kind of neat.
And
so
she's like
glad.
Teaches that message, because when I first got pregnant, I'm a big shoe high heel person. Like, I wore high heels all the time. Well, you can't do that when you start growing.
Yeah.
And I just would feel uncomfortable. And she told me one day, go buy some, like, patterned dresses, and, like, you'll, you know, some dresses and things, and you'll feel good. And I was like, I want to buy some dresses, like maternity dresses that I liked, and they were patterned, and it made me just feel better. That I wasn't, like, outgrowing my clothes, but I was just transitioning into different ones.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to hear that message came through even without saying it expressly, because it's, and, you know, it's funny, I used to wear heels all the time too, especially when I was living in Washington, D.C., you know, like big city life. And life in Ann Arbor, like, people sometimes joke in Ann Arbor that, you know, you're dressed up if you're wearing your new Birkenstocks and not your, like, 10-year-old Birkenstocks. And I never thought that I would go out in public wearing sweatpants ever. You know, I used to have all of these rules that I associated with how I should be presentable to the world, and that changed. And at first I was really, like, hard on myself. Like, I can't believe I'm outside right now in elastic waisted pants. And now I'm like, I only want elastic waisted pants. And again, I think that just being open to the flow and open to changes, so that you can just be a person taking care of your business, going to work, feeling comfortable, feeling confident, instead of, you know, always fiddling with something, or your shoes are uncomfortable, or your skirt suddenly feels too short or too tight, all of that stuff. You know, you have to sometimes let some things go so that you can bring in some new things, so that you can bring your best self out into the world.
I'm so glad you said that, because one of my points I wanted to ask was how has your style changed based on where you live? Because when I moved, I was living in Corpus Christi before here, and I've just noticed coastal living attire and the hill country attire being totally different, even though they're only 4 hours away. Yeah, so DC to Michigan must have been.
It was a big change. It really, really was. And I found myself actually the first winter that I was in Michigan, I was still in the process of working on 50 Ways to Wear Accessories. I moved in the middle of writing that book, which I hear that moving is sort of like having a kid. Like if you wait for the most convenient moment, you're never going to do it. So it was just like the craziest year. And that winter, I realized I was feeling kind of depressed. And when I thought about it, it was because I hadn't taken the time to get dressed in a long time. And even though my taste had changed and I was living in a much less put together sort of environment, it still was important to me that I found a way to look my best within that new context. So, you know, like I said, I've been on a journey finding new pants that are both comfortable and stylish, sort of saying goodbye to some of my higher heels, or noticing that some of my like crazier going out tops or all of those things maybe are spending a little less time in my rotation, so to speak. And Ann Arbor this is very specifically Ann Arbor, but it's generally not like a place where people get dressed up. Like I find that if I'm dressed up, quote unquote, I feel like people are like, whoa, she's wearing a dress, you know, which is, I'm not sure if it's the same thing here in Texas, but ultimately I just decided, you know what, I don't care. So what if people think I'm overdressed? This matters to me. It matters how I feel. So sort of coming to a middle ground about being in a new place that's a little more casual, but still maintaining what I know now is really important for my well-being, which is to feel like I put some effort into this, and that this thing that brings me joy, that getting dressed is like one of the greatest joys of my life, both for myself and helping other people do it. I have to recommit to it and find new ways for that to work in this new context, even if it means I don't wear my high heels that I love so much.
That's great.
Yeah, and I'm actually wearing sneakers to the talk. It's like part of my outfit. And I was like, I have never worn sneakers to a talk. I'm normally always like, you know, it's a serious moment, get me up on those heels. And, you know, it's like times are changing. Like, let's pull out my nice sneakers. You know, you can do whatever you want these days.
Oh, yeah. I'm a big fan of the sneakers right now.
Oh, I'm sure.
I would have never worn sneakers to work. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I wear them occasionally now.
Now you can
I wore them
embrace
yesterday.
Them. Well, there's so many cute options too. And now you see people who, you know, even on a red carpet stance, you'll see people wearing ball gowns with sneakers. And I think, you know, if we wanted to get to talking about the patriarchy, you know, I think there is something about being comfortable that gives you a lot of ownership over your position in the world. And so it's been really important to me to be conscious of that, about where I'm really comfortable and how I'm comfortable in relation to my sense of power in those contexts.
I like that. A blog that I like that kind of talks about that, I don't know if you've heard of Man Repeller.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. They were the first one that kind of introduced me that I like to menswear as menswear, and like being comfortable is okay. So I was just, what are some of your favorite blogs and magazines, because people that like your books are obviously gonna like other places that you like to go.
Well, I love Man Repeller, and I really appreciate that the coverage, I love seeing that Leandra Medina, the creator of Man Repeller, has made it into something that is much greater than just I'm wearing this crazy outfit to repel men. You know, it's about like personal style. And actually my mom is a master bargain shopper. And she taught me from when I was as a young kid to not be limited by the women's section. I always go to the men's section, and some of my favorite things that I own are from the men's section. So I think some of those, you know, I think we don't need to subscribe to those limitations about like what is male and what is female. So I love Man Repeller. I love Cup of Joe. I think that I love Cup of Joe. Yeah, she just has such a wonderful. It just gives me such a warm feeling when I go onto our website, and I love when they do the week of outfits with people, because that's fascinating to me. It's just like, what does your average woman in Nevada or California, what does she wear in a week? And what I like to just like see what the people are wearing out here. And on Instagram, I really like following Carla Welsh, who is the stylist for a lot of different people. She is the master of this mix of high, low, male, female. She just has, and she does, like, she's done a lot of collaborations, like with Levi's and Express and Hanes, you know, just making like the perfect white t-shirt and the perfect like jean jacket, and her style is something that I really like to look up to. And I have to be honest, just like being out in the world as an observer is one of my greatest inspirations. When I was working on all 3 of these books, you would be shocked by all of the creepy pictures that I have in my inspiration files of just like, ooh, like look at that, you know, just trying to not be too obvious about it while I take a picture. And then I still am an avid magazine reader, so I've been reading Vogue for as long as I can remember, and I'll always read Vogue because it's just important to me that, you know, sort of I know like what the apotheosis of American fashion publishing, what they're doing. And those are kind of my big ones. And it's funny because, you know, I'm always looking for new inspiration. So I'm always open to what other people have as a suggestion for me as well. One person who is no longer with us, she was an editor at Vogue, Diana Vreeland. She had, first of all, she has the most quotable quotes of all time. You know, she was real broad, so to speak. And she had a couple books that have come out, and the way that she put things together and her sort of sense of fearlessness about going beyond the expectations is something that I've been really inspired by and always will be. But, you know, I'm always open to suggestions as well. Like I said, there's always something new to discover.
Well, I guess it's a great way to cap it. So what's new? What is next for you? Do you have anything in the works, or are you kind of just letting the accessory book sit for a while?
Well, that's a great question. My professional career, I wear a lot of hats, and I always have. So devoting each of the 50 Ways books took me a year to write. So to have the luxury to spend 3 years writing 3 books was beyond any of my dreams and expectations. And like I said, I work as a closet consultant and stylist. I work as a muralist and a chalk artist doing menus and murals for people. And I actually just got a part-time job working for an interior design company. And I, you know, as mother-daughter relationships are often wont to do, the work that my mom did as an architect my whole life has simultaneously like repelled and intrigued me. And I think I'm finally sort of at this point where I want to learn about how to build a home, how to make it something. So I am starting to pivot into interior design and home design. And the next book project for me is one that I think is going to take a long time to cook. But I have a children's book in mind, and it's going to be a children's book about getting dressed. So it will still be in the, you know, fashion silo, but I think I'm really ready to sort of expand my wings as an author and illustrator and try some new illustration techniques, write in a different way. You know, by the time we got to 50 Ways to Wear Accessories, I'm not going to say that it was easy by any means, but, you know, I knew how to create an outline and sort of like, okay, this is where we're going, da 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 da, and then like this is how, you know, and you want to be able to be challenged. So I think I'm really looking forward to trying my hand at something that's a little different. So we'll see. It'll be a while before we hear about this children's book from Lauren Friedman, but now that I'm saying it and it's being recorded, I have to do it.
It sounds fantastic.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm kind of curious. Will it be with Chronicle Books?
I think it could be, and it could be with, so I actually don't have an agent, which is another thing that is just a kind of unique thing in the publishing world. And I think I could go on and on and on about like the pluses and minuses of not having an agent. But, you know, when you're just one little person in a big, bad publishing world, so to speak, you know, I don't know what I don't know. And so I think having someone to advocate for me, you know, and if it means with Chronicle or with someone else, I'm open to whatever. I really am. I love working with Chronicle. They have been beyond amazing, and I would be so thrilled to write another book with them. So the sky is the limit at this point. Yeah, we'll see.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for being on this podcast. It was great.
It's been such a pleasure.
Yeah, I could just talk
I know,
forever.
I could just, like, tell me what you are wearing this morning. Let's talk about our outfits.
But this is the time. It's a daily commute for people, so we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, you're like,
yes.
turn around and another loop around the block. Let's talk about the style trends for 2020.
So, would you like to tell our listeners where they can find 50 Ways to Wear all 3 of the books?
So you can find 50 Ways to Wear at any place that books are sold, and if they don't sell it at your local bookstore, they can sell it. So ask them to sell it. Support local businesses. Makes a really good holiday gift, so probably now is a good time to start thinking about it. And you know, you can find it on Barnes & Noble and Amazon and IndieBound. And then you can find me online. I'm on Instagram at lauren.e.friedman. That's F as in Frank, RIEDMAN. And I'm on Facebook at My Closet in Sketches and Twitter on at Closet Sketches.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, one more thing, Lauren.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us how your mom gives the scarf book.
Oh, that's a very important question. Yes, especially relevant for the upcoming holiday season. My mom likes to give the books wrapped in a scarf so that the scarf is part of the gift and part of the wrapping, which, you know, then the sky is really the limit. And scarves they make such a great gift because you don't have to worry about someone's size.
Oh, yeah.
And it's one of those things that you can always have forever, especially a really cool, like maybe a silk scarf or something that's really unique. You can kind of go in a little bit more of an exciting direction than, you know, a standard t-shirt, what have you. So yeah, wrap them in a scarf.
I think I might do that for my mom's birthday.
Yeah, there you go. When's her birthday?
It's October 19th, so
it's coming up.
So,
perfect. And
like,
just in time for the fall scarf season, too.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this, Mom, you're welcome.
Oh, and the last thing is my website is laurenfriedman.com. So you can also find ordering information from there, too.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I love Marble Falls.
Thank you.
Not leaving.